A young newlywed. A late-night prayer. A sacred place desecrated by a brutal and ritualistic murder. In 1974, the quiet halls of Stanford University's Memorial Church became the scene of one of the most chilling unsolved murders in American history. The victim, Arlis Perry, a devout Christian and recent bride. The crime scene, horrifying, symbolic, and deeply disturbing. This is Real Unsolved Crimes, and today we're examining the case of Arlis Perry, a murder that remains etched in the darkest corners of true crime history. Arlis Perry was just 19 years old. Originally from Bismarck, North Dakota, she had recently moved to California to join her husband, Bruce Perry, a Stanford sophomore studying psychiatry. Married for only a few months, Arlis was adjusting to her new life far from home. She was described as kind, spiritual, and deeply committed to her Christian faith. On the night of October 12, 1974, after a minor disagreement with Bruce, she left their dorm at around 11:30 p.m. to go pray alone at the nearby Memorial Church. It was the last time she was seen alive. Stanford's Memorial Church is grand, ornate, and normally serene. But what happened inside its sacred walls that night was anything but. Around 5:30 a.m. the next morning, a security guard named Stephen Crawford discovered the church's doors unlocked. Inside, he made a gruesome discovery. Arlis's body lay near the altar. She had been brutally murdered and posed in a manner that suggested a symbolic or ritualistic purpose. Her jeans had been removed and laid across her legs in the shape of a cross. An ice pick protruded from her skull. Her blouse had been pushed up, and a candle was inserted between her breasts. Another was placed between her legs. The scene was horrific, surreal, and strangely theatrical. The news of Arlis Perry's murder spread quickly across the Stanford campus. Students, faculty, and locals were horrified. A church, of all places, had become a crime scene. And this wasn't a robbery or random act of violence. This was something darker. The investigation began immediately. Police questioned everyone who had access to the church, including Bruce Perry and the security guards. No one reported hearing screams. No signs of forced entry. The only confirmed account of Arlis that night was her brief conversation with Crawford, the night guard, just after 11:30 p.m. She had entered the church alone. She would never come out. As investigators struggled to find leads, the press and public began to speculate. The strange staging of Arlis's body suggested ritualistic intent. Some began to wonder, could this have been a satanic killing? The 1970s were a time of increasing paranoia around cults and dark spiritual movements. Just 5 years after the Manson family murders, and amid growing reports of occult crimes, Arlis's murder fed into the fears of the time. A bizarre theory even emerged that Arlis had been targeted by a cult because of her Christian beliefs. Some pointed to letters and interviews with convicted killers claiming knowledge of satanic groups operating in California. But none of it could be substantiated. And the case went cold. Early suspicion inevitably fell on those closest to Arlis, including her husband, Bruce. But Bruce passed a polygraph, and no physical evidence linked him to the scene. He remained cooperative throughout. Attention then turned to Stephen Crawford, the security guard who found the body. Crawford had a history in law enforcement. He had been fired from the Palo Alto police for misconduct. And there were inconsistencies in his story about the church doors being locked. Some questioned whether he may have had keys and returned later. Still, there was no hard evidence. For decades, Arlis Perry's murder sat in a cold case file. A haunting memory for the community. An open wound for her family. In 2018, 44 years after the murder, DNA testing finally brought answers. Cold case detectives re-examined evidence, including semen found at the scene. It was a match, Stephen Crawford. Crawford had lived in the area for years after the murder, eventually retiring quietly. But when police arrived at his San Jose apartment to arrest him in June 2018, he took his own life with a gunshot before he could be brought to justice. The case was finally closed. But the ending was far from satisfying. Crawford never confessed, never explained why, and left behind no note. What was his motive? Was it spontaneous? Or something darker, perhaps even ritualistic, as many long suspected? We may never know. The murder of Arlis Perry is a case that captures so many layers of fear and fascination, an innocent life lost in a place of peace, a cold case cracked by science decades later, and the lingering mystery of motive. It also reminds us of the importance of persistence in justice. That even after decades, the truth can still emerge. And yet, some scars remain. Arlis was laid to rest in her hometown of Bismarck. But her story lives on in every unsolved mystery, in every quiet chapel, and in every life interrupted too soon. You've been listening to Real Unsolved Crimes. Don't forget to subscribe and share if this case moved you. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and always question the silence.